2 months before America started dropping bombs on Iran, a United States senator bought stocks in a company that makes missiles. And he was nowhere near the only one who saw it coming. For the last few months, you and I paid for a war. Maybe you felt it at the pump or in a heating bill that did not make any sense, or you saw the fuel shortages and the protests across all of Europe. Well, that was the Iran war. Trump just put his name on a deal to end it, signing it over dinner at the Palace of Versailles just outside of Paris. The Iranian side from the other side of the world. For almost everyone involved, it was a catastrophe. America spent up to $1 trillion. Iran came out the other side shattered, its supreme leader dead and its economy in ruins. But somebody always wins in a war like this, so I stopped keeping the score the usual way, who won, who lost, and started keeping the score by the money. For the last few weeks, I've been going through stock filings, oil charts, and congressional disclosures, trying to answer one question: who made an absolute fortune of a war the rest of us felt deep inside our wallets? So in this video, I'm going to show you a list. Every person and company that made a fortune of this war, while you and I were bleeding at the supermarket and the gas station. But before we meet the winners, I want to show you something, because the skill here is hard to believe until you see it. The Pentagon, now officially renamed the Department of War, posts its contracts online. Every business day at 5 p.m. a fresh list goes up. And to even make the list, a single contract has to be worth at least $7.5 million. So here's what you're looking at. Each day is just a plain list. The company, the dollar amount, and one line on what it's for. A batch of missiles, a ship repair, fuel, a radar, and so on. Let's just open a few random days. Let's take June 15th. Honeywell, this might be interesting. Phoenix, Arizona awarded a ceiling of $25 million for gas turbines. Okay, well, that's cool. Oh, wait a minute. I see Lockheed Martin here. $223 million, almost $224 million. Well, let's go to another day. Let's take June 22nd, for instance. Let's take this one. Integrated Procurement Technologies, $860 million. Boeing awarded a $121 million order. I've just been through 2 days. The list goes on and on. And that's not wartime, that's a normal business day. Billions a day going to private companies, the one that build the weapons, feed the troops, and guard the bases. And why does it balloon in a war? Well, in peacetime, those companies compete on price. In a war, that disappears. The government needs it now. The budget is basically bottomless, and the bill always gets paid. It's how over 20 years in Afghanistan, the Pentagon spent around $14 trillion. And according to Brown University, between a third and half of that went straight to private companies. Now, point that same system at Iran. The first company in line is the one that makes the missiles. Now, here's what you probably assume. The war breaks out on February 28th, the bombs start falling, and the people holding defense stocks cash in. War starts, stock jumps. Simple. So let's actually take a look at RTX, which makes the missiles. Lockheed Martin, the biggest weapon maker on Earth, and Northrop Grumman. From their lows in late 2025, all three of them ran hard. RTX up more than 50%, Lockheed and Northrop around 60 to 70%. But look closer, all three hit their peak on the exact same day. RTX at $212, Lockheed at $677, and Northrop at $768. And that day was March 2nd. The very first trading day after the bombing started. Think about that. The first moment the market could react to the actual war was the top. And from there, every one of them fell. From that March 2nd peak, RTX is down about 14%, Lockheed 27%, and Northrop almost 34%. So the war wasn't the launch, it was the peak, the moment to sell. There's an old line for this. It's called buy the rumor and sell the news. The climb happened in the months before, back when the war was just still a rumor. By the time the rest of us saw the headlines, the people who got in early were already cashing out. all three are lower today than they started the year. Hold on to that because it matters later. But the stock was always the sideshow. The real money is in the contracts, and that money doesn't go anywhere when the fighting stops. In January, before the war even started, the Pentagon signed Lockheed to quadruple THAAD interceptor production, from 96 a year to 400. And each of those interceptors cost around $30 million. So when you quadruple the order, that one line jumps from around $1 billion to a year to more than 5. In late May, Lockheed booked over $1 billion in fresh contracts in a matter of days, including a single $879 million order. Boeing got more missile orders, and it's not just America buying. With the Gulf rattled, the UAE, Jordan, and Kuwait lined up more than $23 billion in new US arms deals, about $16 billion of it to boost missile capacity. And Lockheed and RTX are the first in line. So picture it, every time Iran fired a barrage at a US base, crews fired several interceptors back. 13 million apiece, tens of millions of dollars gone in minutes. And every one they fire, the Pentagon just buys again. Think about what that does to the incentives. The more that gets used up, the more they sell. The one outcome that doesn't pay is peace. And the people at the very top, they do just fine. Lockheed CEO Jim Taiclet made about $23.7 million in 2024. Northrop's Katie Warden almost $25 million. And most of that is not even salary. The base pay is under $2 million. The rest is stock plus bonuses tied to how the company does, its share price, and how many orders it's got on the books. The exact thing a war sends through the roof. We won't see their 2026 numbers until next year, but with their backlogs at record highs, all the contracts they've signed but haven't delivered yet, it's not hard to guess the direction. And watch what they did with that stock. In the 6 months around the war, Lockheed's own executives sold shares 15 times and bought 0. The president of the division that makes the missiles sold thousands on March 11th, days after the stock hit its all-time high. Now, executives sell all the time. Taxes, diversification, plans set months in advance. It doesn't prove they knew anything. But it's a strange thing to watch. The people running the missile business heading for the exits just as the missiles started flying. And it's not just me connecting the dots. The government sees it too. This year, the White House signed an order trying to stop defense contractors from tying executive pay to the stock price. You don't write a rule like that unless the link between a war and a CEO's paycheck is very real. The weapons makers are big winners, everyone expects, but the bigger, quieter money was somewhere else, in oil. And oil is where it gets really interesting. The second those first bombs fell, the fastest moving market in the world wasn't defense stocks, it was crude. And it all comes down to one place. The Strait of Hormuz, barely 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest, and about 20 million barrels of oil squeeze through it every single day, a fifth of the world's uses. So when the war started, Iran did the thing the world had feared for decades. It choked the strait off. The Revolutionary Guard warned ships, they boarded some, attacked others, even dropped sea mines in the water. And in April, Iran formally declared the strait closed. Watch what happens to the traffic. Before the war, almost 180 ships a day. After, just a trickle, about 5% of normal activity. And oil did exactly what you'd expect. The day the bombs fell, it jumped 13%. By late April, Brent crude was up around $126 a barrel, the highest in 4 years. The International Energy Agency called it the biggest supply disruption in the history of the oil market. Now, you'd think sky-high prices mean every oil company wins. They don't. Exxon and Chevron, the big American producers, actually saw their profits fall. The ones who cleaned up were the ones with massive trading desks. Take BP, and this is going to be insane. Its profit more than doubled in 3 months to $3.2 billion. And BP credited itself exceptional oil trading. Shell did the same, almost $7 billion on trading oil. And JP Morgan's trading desk booked a record $11.6 billion profit. They didn't make that selling more oil, they made it on the chaos in the price. That's the game. When the price of something this big swings hard, the people who traded win, whichever way it moves. Well, almost, because even the best in the game got it wrong. Meet Zhao Liu, Cambridge grad, ex-Goldman Sachs, and a star trader at Vital, the biggest independent oil trader on the planet. A few years back, Liu made the firm $2 billion in a single year, just him. Going into this war, he made one bet, that Trump would back down and that it wouldn't really happen. He bet big on it. Then Iran closed the strait, jet fuel surged up more than 70%, and the bet detonated. Hundreds of millions gone. Vital had to rebuild its entire London desk, so even the people who made billions doing this got caught out. But here's the part almost nobody noticed. The strait was closed to the entire world, except the one country that closed it. Because when the world's tankers sat anchored outside the strait, Iran's oil never stopped moving. And to understand how, you need to know about something called the shadow fleet. For years, Iran's been under heavy sanctions. Officially, it's barely allowed to sell its oil at all. So it built a workaround. Hundreds of aging, anonymous tankers, what people call ghost ships. They switch off their tracking, they fake their location, and they're owned through shell companies. You can't trace them, and they keep re-registering under whatever country asks the fewest questions. All of it built to move oil to buyers who don't ask questions either. So when the war shut the strait to everyone else, that fleet kept right on sailing. And business didn't stop, which is really weird to me. Since the day the war began, Iran moved more than 11 million barrels of crude through that closed strait. Every last one of them headed to China, sold at a steep discount, ship to ship, and completely off the books. So while the world's legitimate tankers sat outside, Iran's oil never slowed down. More than 1 million barrels a day, now worth far more with prices at the 4-year high. At those prices, that's well over $100 million a day. And here is the irony, because the strait was closed, but it was Iran deciding who got through. At one point, waving dozens of vessels past in a single day. The country the world was bombing had turned the most important waterway on Earth into its own private toll booth. One outlet called it a golden age for black market oil shipping. Now, wait, don't get me wrong on this, because Iran didn't win this war. Its leader was killed, its bases were flattened, and the proposed deal would set aside $300 billion just to rebuild the place. Even imagine all the human suffering that was going on there. The country is wrecked, but even with the bombs falling, the ghost money never stopped. The fleet made a fortune moving it, and the regime kept its cash flowing through the whole way. Now, remember the senator I opened this video with, because one name kept coming up in my research, and the deeper I dug, the more I understood why. Because the most uncomfortable winners of this war weren't defense contractors or oil traders or some foreign government. They were the people who helped decide whether we go to war at all. So let me show you one of them, Mark Wayne Mullen, at the time a US Senator from Oklahoma and a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, one of the small groups who get classified briefings on military threats, on where a war might be coming, long before you and I do. This is his financial disclosure, a public document online for anyone to read. Now look at the date, December 29th, 2025. 2 months before the first bomb fell on Iran. That is the day Mullen bought Raytheon, RTX, which makes the missiles, plus Chevron and ConocoPhillips, 2 of the biggest oil companies in the world. And when that war came, all 3 took off. Now, in fairness, that wasn't one targeted bet. The same day he also bought into 30 other companies, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, over $1 million at once. Nobody's proven he broke a single rule, and I'm not saying he did. But this part is hard to ignore, because Mullen doesn't just own defense stock. He sat on the committee that shapes the defense budget, and he voted on the bills that sent billions to companies like Raytheon. So he could, quite literally, vote to make his own stocks go up. And through the war, he kept buying more of it. L3 Harris and Carpenter Technology, the firm that builds what gets fired. And one more thing, by law, he is supposed to report these trades within 45 days. Mullen is one of the worst late filers in the Senate. So even though it's all public, nobody could actually see what he was doing until long after he'd done it. And if you think that's all, well, he's got a new job because after some weeks into the war, he was confirmed to the cabinet. And today he runs the Department of Homeland Security. And if this were just one senator from one party, you could call it a coincidence. Well, it isn't. John Boozman on the panel that controls the military's budget, holding Raytheon as it climbed, then buying oil as the war sent it up. Dave Taylor, who cashed out his oil into the spike. Rich McCormick, who sold his defense stock within a few percent of the very top. And Kelly Morrison, a Democrat who bought into a company that builds warships 9 days after the bombs started falling. Kinda weird, right? But the one that stops me is Jill Cisneros. A few years ago, he helped run the Pentagon, Under Secretary of Defense. Now he's back in Congress, and in January, weeks before the first bomb fell, he bought Raytheon too. But there was something weird going on with this man, because he didn't trade Raytheon since 2020, and suddenly he started buying again in January 2026, just before the Iran war. What is even more crazy is this guy's standard salary is $174,000, but his trading volume in 2025, almost $23 million. What? And none of it is hidden. Every trade is filed by law under the Stock Act. Not a leak, not a secret. Anyone could look it up. Which makes the last twist almost too perfect. Some of these people are now co-sponsoring bills to ban exactly what they just did. The contractors, the oil traders, the shadow fleet, and some of the people we elected to decide whether we go to war at all. Everyone came out ahead. Which leaves the one question on that list nobody wants you to ask. If all of them won, who paid? Well, you did. Twice. First, as a taxpayer, the Pentagon admits the war cost about $34 billion. Some economists put the real hit to the economy closer to $1 trillion. Your money. And the military burned through it so fast, it started cutting training and repairs for the people actually doing the fighting. Then you paid again just trying to get through the month. When oil hit a 4-year high, that didn't stay in the Gulf. It showed up at the pump in Rotterdam. It showed up on a heating bill in Berlin. In the cost of running a bakery in Lyon. Europe imports most of its energy, so a missile fired thousands of kilometers away landed on your kitchen table. You didn't vote for this war and you didn't make a dime of it, but you funded the missiles as a taxpayer and paid every time you filled the car. And that's what stays with me. The people who got rich were never the ones who paid. The taxpayers paid, families paid, the soldiers who fought it risked the most of all. Well, the shooting stopped for now, but your half of the bill doesn't go away when the headlines do. Right now, everyone's waiting on the final peace deal, and the odds are it gets signed any day now. Maybe it was signed when we edited this video, but honestly, it changes nothing. The money's already made, and no signature this week is clawing any of it back. And somewhere, someone's already running the numbers on the next one, because this pattern, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, has never once been punished. The customer always pays. So the real question was never who won the Iran war. It's why we keep acting surprised when the same people win every single one.